Do you want to know what it's like to retire in Vancouver, Washington? Stay tuned to the end and you'll find out. Our guest today is Gary Beagle, and I'll tell you a little bit about Gary. Gary is CEO for Entrustment Northwest, a Washington State and Oregon out-of-state chartered trust company with its corporate office in Vancouver, Washington. A Northwest transplant for the last 30 years. He was originally from Texas, where he grew up on a ranch. Mr. Beagle has a Bachelor of Science degree in social work from West Texas A&M and did a postgraduate studies in finance at the University of Texas. Mr. Beagle was inducted to the 2014 West Texas A&M Communications Hall of Fame. He is a college football, basketball, and rugby fan with a fondness for bourbon, reading, and travel. Welcome, Gary. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for coming. I do appreciate it very much.
You're quite welcome. Nice to finally be able to do the podcast, Mark.
Thank you. So let's start off, Gary. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background and what brought you to Vancouver and what kept you there?
I grew up, as you mentioned, on a ranch up near Amarillo, Texas, and did my postgraduate work at the University of Texas and was doing banking as a part-time teller to pay for my education. And so at that point in time, social work did not pay anything. It was very low paying. So I was actually making more as I could as a social worker as a part-time teller. So I went in and became a branch manager for a savings and loan back in those days.
Mm-hmm.
And then worked with them, and then I moved to Houston to become director of operations for another savings and loan called United Savings. And my expertise is mergers and acquisitions on the operational side. So I was recruited by U.S. Bancorp in Portland and Washington Mutual out of Seattle, and I selected to come to Portland because my aunt and uncle lived in Salem. I'd been to Portland. Portland was just a pristine, beautiful city, and went to work for U.S. Bancorp, handling their mergers and acquisitions of some of their banks that they were bringing into their environment. And then I ran across a friend of mine from West Texas A&M who actually was working for a woman who had a professional fiduciary agency, and that blended both my talents of social work and finance together. I bought the firm in 1992, and here I am today.
Wow.
So, staying because I love this area of the world. It's absolutely stunning. And we're an hour from the coast, an hour from the mountains. And the weather in the spring, summer, and fall is excellent. It's a little gray during the winter, but I'm always happy to come back to Vancouver and to my home here.
We kind of have some similar background in financial because although I didn't work in the corporate actions area of a brokerage firm, I did work in back office operations and alongside of corporate actions and reorganization with mergers and acquisitions. So it's a small world.
It is a small world, isn't it?
So can you describe the climate in Vancouver, Washington? That part of the country, Pacific Northwest, they do tend to get a little bit more precipitation than other parts of the country. Can you tell us what new residents could expect during the year?
Well, I think there's a little myth out there about raining more than other parts of the country. Houston, to be honest with you, gets a whole lot more rain than we do here in the Pacific Northwest. Ours is normally not a downpour. It's more misty and gray. It'll last for some time than not. So the winters are, because of how far north we are, the sunset and sunrise makes it dark in the morning, dark in the evening. And that's a little dreary. But if you come and experience the spring, summer, and fall, you cannot beat the weather. We're very moderate temperature-wise. The summer has gotten a little hotter, and I think that's due to climate change. In doing it, we're hitting some 90-degree weather. But over 60% of the citizens of Vancouver do not have air conditioning because it's not that usually that hot. So it's really a wonderful environment to do that. This fall, we have all the trees, the lovely change of color. The spring, everything comes out. And unlike other parts of the country where I have lived in the past, our plants and our vegetation do not burn up because it's so hot. So we have a very colorful spring here, and it's just beautiful. So that's what you can expect. I will say that we do take off during the gray time of the weather. We're 2 hours by flight on to Palm Springs. We're to California, so people tend to do that during the wintertime takeoff. We have direct flights into Hawaii. So people tend to want to avoid the winter
The
here.
winter. And
yes.
so after the winter, like in the fall or the spring, I'm sorry, it does clear up and it stops raining?
It does. It's like turning a switch.
Wow.
Almost. You can tell when the season changes. Today, for example, it's sunny and warm. We're in October. It's 67 degrees. It's perfect out there. I'm in short sleeves and everyone's out and about doing things. And I think one of the things that I love about the Northwest is we're not stuck inside during the summertime because it's so hot. Exactly. So we have the ability to get out and to hike and bike and do all the physical activities that people want to do, but we also have a very good cultural scene as well.
Do you think with climate change that more people will be opting in for air conditioning?
Probably so. I think the building of the homes now are doing the air conditioning, and there probably will be more of that. But again, it really depends on how much the individuals can take without air conditioning is going to be the driving factor here.
And I could see a lower electric bill in Vancouver because of the times that you won't be needing air conditioning in the winter and the fall, maybe in the spring.
That's correct. But also we have a public utility, Clark County Public Utilities. In Bonneville, which is the leading generator of electricity through the Columbia River system, we get our electricity very, very inexpensively here. So, for example, probably at our house, and we do have air conditioning, we probably pay in the summer $70
really good
to do it. So we're not at risk of having another company such as PGE or one of these other larger providers come in and hike up the prices. We are publicly owned, which means myself as a user of it is part of the owner of the public utility. So I think that's what makes us extremely unique. We do some solar energy and wind energy through the Columbia Gorge, but overall it's very inexpensive due to the Bonneville power plants that we utilize.
That's great. Can you tell us about the geography in the area? Any notable natural features or outdoor activities that are available?
Absolutely. We are mountainous around the valley. We have within our driving distance, we have Mount Hood, which is skiing, Mount St. Helens, which everybody is probably familiar with because it did erupt to do that. But there's Mount Rainier up near Seattle, Mount Adams, which is near us as well. And then you can go to the Bend region and have Mount Bachelor for skiing and snowboarding and all the wonderful winter activities that you do. And it is sunny usually up on the mountains. When I've gone up during the wintertime, it'll have snow, but the sun is out and about. So that's really good. This is the valley where Portland is extended out to the Willamette Valley, which is a large bread basket for the rest of the world and country, where everything is grown through that valley. But also we're an hour and a half from the coast, the Pacific coast. Oregon's coastline is absolutely beautiful. It's got rugged appearances to it, which is great. The Washington up around Long Beach does not have as nice of a look to it. It's pretty standard. It reminds me of Galveston, Texas, actually. But we do have a rainforest up on the peninsula as well. So here you can experience just all sorts of type of topography. If you go up toward Mount Hood, there's the plateaus there. It's high desert, and it has a different feel, a different look to it. And so you can experience that all within probably an hour and a half drive from Vancouver. Then, of course, we have Seattle, which is 2.5 hours, and Portland, which is just
5 minutes, 10 minutes.
Absolutely, 5 minutes over across the bridge. Yeah.
That makes it convenient. We'll talk a little bit about that too, and savings. So let's get into cost of living. How would you rate the cost of living in Vancouver as compared to other cities in Washington, or in comparison to the average, the U.S. average?
Well, thanks to us doing the podcast, I actually did research on it, found out we're pretty good. We're 11% less than any other city in Washington State. And that's the Seattle area. We're probably more cost of living is better here with that. The median house prices are still fairly reasonable. It's $500,000 approximately. But Vancouver is made up of its city itself, but Clark County is made up of several smaller cities, such as Washougal, Camas, Ridgefield, Yakult, Battleground. And the Camas Washougal is considered to be the higher price, higher end of real estate because of the school districts that they have and because of the provider of services that they do through that. Ridgefield is quickly coming up. It's smaller cities that do that with a higher quality of life. I think you will see in them. Vancouver has an excellent one, but they're very small cities, easy to get around and do that. So, and I think the cost here of the economic advantages is we have no state income tax. Mm-hmm. So we have lots of people moving in from other parts of the country, California, Oregon even, that really can benefit by not having their incomes taxed by the state. It also applies to entrepreneurs who are selling companies. They always move over here prior to selling them to do that. Also, Oregon has no state sales tax. So you can actually drive 10 minutes across the border, purchase large items and not pay sales tax and come back into to Vancouver. So you have all of those advantages to you in the cost of living. So I know Oregon's a 10% approximately state income tax. So if you live over there, you're going to pay 10%. Unfortunately, if you work over in Oregon, they're going to tax you on your income. Mm-hmm. But we have a lot of companies that have moved over here from Portland, large companies. Zoom, who does Zoom Info, is here, headquartered here. Band Pet hospitals and clinics are here. Fisher's Investment has a big company building and infrastructure here as well. So I think you see a lot of people moving into this area just because of the tax situations.
Yeah, it makes it kind of convenient. If you do your Costco shopping, you can go do it over the bridge in Portland and save on sales tax.
Exactly. And I think the state of Washington, my sense is, and I've lived in Washington for 10 years and here over 20 years, is the Washington state is much better run government-wise. And there's lots of reasons for that. You take Seattle, we have some of the largest corporations in the world: Amazon, Microsoft, mm-hmm. Boeing, Starbucks, Costco is located out of Kirkland, Washington. That's where you get the Kirkland brands.
Yeah.
And so we collect a lot of taxes. And so those taxes are used for rainy day funds and to make sure we have money if we run into issues with the economy. And we actually provide better services for our citizens than Oregon does. Oregon has what they call a kickback, which means that if they overestimate the income coming in, it automatically goes back to the taxpayers. So they don't build the nest eggs that they need to, and their budgets are pretty tight over there. But we do better in that one. I think the services are better. I mean, you can go into the local DMV and get taken care of fairly quickly, and they are rated. You fill out a form and rate your service with that particular state agency.
Awesome. So, do you know what the median home price is in Vancouver?
I did look that up. It's $556,000
Okay.
is the average, but it's lower in the Vancouver downtown area, which surprised me. But again, I talked a little bit about the Camas Washougal area, and those are more, if you're family oriented and wanting school districts, you're going to go into that those towns just because of the ranking of the education system. They rank very high within the state of Washington up against the Seattle suburbs and do that. So you'll see more high prices up there. But you'll also see that in Vancouver proper, we have boomed and have really done some great things with the development of condos, apartments, other housings within that system.
So, as I understand, Vancouver's downtown or riverfront, they were building up.
Right.
And they built that up. It's supposed to be beautiful. And I don't know what's on it to offer people. I don't know if they're restaurants or what have you. How is Vancouver set up?
You have three distinct areas. You have the waterfront, you have the downtown area, and then you have the uptown area, which is where my office is located. The waterfront itself was the Port of Vancouver set out a master plan, and it's been implemented, which is great. We have apartments, condos. We have probably 20 restaurants down there now. Some of the Seattle larger restaurants have come down, such as 13 Coins, Gaucho's, which is a steakhouse type thing, Wild Fin. We have a Hispanic restaurant, more on the Miami scene with tapas into it. Lots of wine tasting places because Washington and Oregon have become pretty well known in the wine industry as having some really good wines from the vineyards. And so they have those. They built a new parking garage down there. We have a new high-end senior housing type of facility coming in, which shows that those people know that this is going to be a good area to do. They're further developing it. We're going to be having something similar to Pike's Market up in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to work on that. I think that'll be good. We have it's just a great area to walk and to visit and do it. They do summer concerts there, and then you have all the nightlife that you could want there.
Sounds like a destination now.
It is. In fact, you walk over there and you'll see more Oregon bladed cars than you will Washington.
They're coming over.
They are, and we have friends that come over routinely because the restaurants are very good, and you don't have the hassle of the parking and the driving that you do with it. Yeah. The downtown area is the core. They're redoing a little bit of it. We have one of the best Saturday markets I think I've seen in my experience. It's located downtown. We have a large park called Esther Short where all the events are held. So the Pride in the Park, which is our LGBTQ plus celebration, is held there. We have Brew Fest there. We have Jazz Fest. We have any type and every type of outdoor activity you would want to experience. And the market is there, and the parking is great. Downtown has some good restaurants as well, and we'll be able to take of that. And downtown has some corporate offices here as well. And then if you come to the uptown area, it's a little more laid back, I would say, than the waterfront. It has it's a lot of walkability and has great restaurants through here. Housing neighborhoods are right attached to the downtown and to the uptown area. And you might not know this, but Vancouver was voted the number one hipster city in America 3 years ago by a British firm. And the reason for that is we have per capita, we have the number one thrift shops per capita, which is what hipsters want. Marijuana shops, of course, brew pubs, And the housing was part of that as well. The cost of housing was on that. And as well as just the total walkability of the area. So we've done well in doing that. And our city council has done a good job of working with developers to ensure that the viability and the walkability is done within these projects.
So talking about walkability, so the riverfront, I'm assuming, is walkable.
Yes.
So you can walk. And how far does that stretch, the riverfront?
Oh, it probably stretches a mile.
Okay.
To that. Downtown is very walkable. Uptown is very walkable. And you have to realize these butt against each other from they're blocks, just blocks. We've got a new Four Seasons grocery store here, very similar to Whole Foods. It's local, and they promote local produce and everything else at the farmers market as well. So you do that, but it's very walkable between all three of the areas that I described.
But Vancouver is still set up where you do need a car, correct?
That is correct. And one of the things I was just thinking about that is you have a lot. Vancouver is part of the Portland metro area, and we are Washingtonians. We are not Oregonians. And so it's kind of interesting to see how the dynamics work, because we do have to take our local paper here, which is it's been in over 150 years here, to get our news about Washington. But if you want, we have what we call CTRAN, which is an excellent system here. It does feed into the Portland metro system there. And so if they just go across the river, we have a Max Line light rail that you can get onto. We have buses terminals you can do over there. But I would say it's lacking in Vancouver.
In public transportation.
It is. It's probably one of the areas that I would say that do not compare to other cities.
So does the light rail go from Vancouver to Portland?
No, that's on the plans. We're getting a new I-5 bridge. The part of the plan is for that to come over. Vancouver and Washingtonians have been a little resistant of that, just because it's going to change the culture. Well, it's going to change the culture.
Yeah. Can you imagine having a light rail that goes to Costco?
Exactly.
They'd be going back and forth.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
Okay. So as far as utility costs, we kind of went over air conditioning, but as far as utilities, water, sewer, electric, gas and cable, how reasonable or unreasonable are they?
Well, I think the utilities, and I'll talk about cable and internet services separately. The utilities of water, gas, electricity, all of that is extremely reasonable. It's a lot less than what I was paying over in Portland and still pay on some properties that I have over there. So I can tell you that it's very reasonable. Like I said, the public utility for electricity is actually something that really, really benefits the individuals utilizing the service. The city is very well run on that, and I think that the utilities are very reasonable compared to that. I think if you add all the utilities, the gas goes up during the winter for us because of the heating cost. Electricity, the water, which includes a lot of storm assessments, sewer assessments. I think it's probably around $125 a month would average out, is what mine does. And we have a 1,500 square foot house, and that's probably, our water bill is more high during the spring, summer area because we have a quarter acre lot to do it. So it's a little higher on that one. The cable service and internet, I'll break down. Cable is expensive here. Comcast and Xfinity is the provider. You can look at other options. We recently just dropped our cable entirely through that one. We have an internet system with a Fire TV from Amazon. It's running $112 a month for that service. You can get it less, maybe through CenturyLink, which is another provider, or people are switching to T-Mobile, has a program out there. But it's about $100 for that, I would say,
Okay.
for the internet.
Okay. Sounds reasonable.
It is, actually. Once you got rid of the cable, it's
Right.
it's
Yeah,
reasonable.
I've done that too. The only thing I have is cable internet, and everything else, I don't have cable TV. I stream everything from Netflix.
Yeah, exactly.
Are there any particular expenses that newcomers should be aware of, like insurance?
The insurance is fairly reasonable here. We're not, the only thing we're kind of out there on is earthquake insurance. Might be more expensive or difficult to get. The regular insurance, because we haven't had that many catastrophes here in this part of the world. So it's a lot different than what I would imagine Florida or the Carolinas are right now.
Yeah.
To do that one. My house insurance runs about, and I carry large limits on everything, it's about $200 a month. But that includes my umbrella policy and everything else that I have in there.
Mm-hmm.
The auto insurance is decent compared to maybe some other cities and that as well. But so the insurances are very reasonable here compared to Oregon in some areas.
Now that we bring up earthquakes, so Vancouver is on the fault line, correct?
Mm-hmm. It is.
Since you've been living there, have you experienced any earthquakes, tremors?
In the last 30 years, one
Minor
one. That's it. I've experienced more in Palm Springs than I have here, actually.
So do they say the big one is coming, and is the big one going to affect your fault line as opposed to the California fault line?
It might. One of the things that you have to realize is the concern is a tsunami effect up the Columbia River coming into it. And we have several dams in the Columbia River that if they are breached would certainly cause some major damage and flooding here. But we haven't had to experience that. St. Helens is pretty quiet, so we don't expect it to erupt to do it. But yeah, I've only experienced one minor one here in the last 30 years.
That's pretty good. That's far less than California.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it seems like they get them quite often, like every week. They get a few. Okay. All right. So let's talk a little bit about the LGBTQ community in Vancouver. Now, I don't know if there's a specific neighborhood. I don't know if you have gay bars, or is most of that in Portland?
Well, I think you'll find in the Portland and Vancouver, the gay neighborhoods have been dispersed out. And I can tell you my younger friends that are LGBTQ, and I'm talking 30s, 40s, don't feel the necessity to have a certain area that they go to. So I think that's the big difference that I would experience here. And that might be true of a lot of metropolitan areas right now.
Mm-hmm.
We're the fourth largest GLBTQ plus population within the state of Washington, which I was surprised to find that statistic when I was researching to do that. But we're all out there, but we're just in different parts of the cities. We do have a gay bar called the Underbar here, which is excellent. But there's lots of people, the neighborhood folks that come in, not necessarily LGBTQ, and they're in the uptown neighborhood. We have another one called Sasquatch, which people are lots of the neighborhoods, but a lot of GLBTQ plus individuals go to that one as well. It's an uptown. So I think that what I'm seeing is a large presence of people spread out all over the city, but we go to the restaurants that are approving of us and are supportive of us, and so that would apply to anybody at that point. Portland does have a lot better social scene if you want to go to bars and that sort of thing there. And they have a wide range, but they're spread out as well. They're not necessarily in one area. We used to have what we called Stark Street back when we first moved here that had concentration of most of them. Now there is a few in downtown, some on the east side, some on the west side. It's just where people can get to and do that. But there's a lot of neighborhood bars that people go to that are just that are accepting and closer and to do that area. Cultural wise, we do have a very strong presence of things that occur here. Like I talked about Pride in the Park, which is separate from the Gay Pride over in Portland. It's much smaller scale, but it's a wonderful event, and it'll last all day Saturday. And the one we just went to it this last time. Lots of performers, lots of people out in, community booths, resources are all there for people to look at. So, but they also have a lot of plays, a lot of symphony is here. I'm on the board of the Portland Gay Men's Chorus. We do events over here. In fact, we're doing one in the next few months at Magenta Theater, which is a smaller venue here. And then we have a lot of the wineries that support and are owned by LGBTQ plus individuals, the tasting rooms. So we support those as well. Portland gives you a much more bigger sense of culture in that we have the plays come into Portland, the Broadway, the singers, all that. We have the Arlene Snitzer Auditorium, which is probably like the old Fox theaters, where it's a beautiful venue. We have a smaller one literally across the street to do that. And then the Reeser family, one of the Reeser family members built a Reeser Center out in Beaverton, and Portland Gay Men's Chorus has actually performed there, was one of the inaugural performers there. So there's a lot of activities to do. You just have to look around them to determine what they are to do it.
What's the population of Vancouver? Do you know?
Vancouver is about 100,000, a little over 100. The metro area of all the cities is around 500,000.
Okay.
So we're a fairly large metropolitan area that is not an Oregonian.
Right.
area.
And Portland, do you know what the population in Portland is?
Yes, I did look that up. It's 1.3 million, 1.4.
There's quite a substantial difference between the both size cities.
If you look at the both sides of it, we're still small enough where you can get around fairly easily.
Right.
By car, by bike, by transportation. Portland is more parking is an issue.
Yeah.
All of those issues over there that a large metropolitan area has, but we have the benefit of just being able to plug in to the Portland area very easily.
Right.
Because we're just across the river. Got it.
So the HRC Municipal Equality Index scores a 74 for Vancouver, which is a little bit low and I was kind of surprised.
Well, the one I saw was 60, so I was very surprised by that too. Yeah, I just pulled it out. And so I was thinking about why that is, and I'm not really sure. I think that the East County, which is pretty red politically, and a lot of things is I don't think we have the infrastructure for gay LGBTQ plus individuals, and I'm talking about the medical specifically for them. And a large part of our firms, probably, Fisher Investments is one that is very conservative. Jim Fisher is very conservative, and I think that probably affects a little bit of those type of corporations that are here that are into that with HRC. I'm just not real sure why they rank so low.
I'd have to look more closely, but I think it has to do with the rights of the people that work for the city, or what the city has implemented as far as LGBTQ plus rights for the city. But I'd have to check into that a little bit more.
I think, Mark, they're probably taking a look at the other cities within the area of Vancouver, and they have not been as supportive of LGBTQ plus type of events. Battleground is one of those to do it. Vancouver, we have Ty Stober is our representative gay on there. He's mayor pro tem. The mayor's very pro-gay. They're all there. And usually do a lot of promoting businesses to particular, and the city, I think, does a good job of unions. The unions here do that for that, so I'm surprised by that as well. But they might be incorporating some of those more. Yakel, for example, is very red out there.
Got it. Okay. Do you know how the local government and communities support LGBTQ rights and inclusion? I mean, do you see the government proactively doing anything?
Absolutely. The city itself and county is more conservative. The county overall commissioners is more conservative, so you're not going to get the support within the county itself, but in the city of Vancouver, Ridgefield, Camas, and Washougal, you will. In fact, Washougal had a GLBTQ plus individual that was the commissioner head over the police in Washougal. So they're very pro that you can be out and still serve in those cities and public domain as well as in councilmen and that sort of thing. Like I said, we have one of our city councilmen is an out gay man, lives in the Hauk neighborhood, which is just right adjacent to downtown area. Also, our state government my district is very Democratic. Both of our representatives and senator are Democrats. The rest of the districts are red. So the outlying areas and the rural areas are very red in that distinction. But luckily, we have a supermajority of the Democrats in the House. All of the state elected officials are Democrats. That might change in the newest election. We have one Republican that may become the land commissioner. I'm not sure. But she's from Vancouver, actually. She was our state national U.S. Congresswoman for several years. We did switch the House this last time from red to blue. I think it's going to maintain that. So we have a lot of really good support from the state government. Jim Moeller, who has deceased, unfortunately, was a friend of mine, and he was the House Speaker for Washington for several years and came from my district here at the 49th District.
Let's get into healthcare. So healthcare is very important when it comes to retirement in any city or place. What is the quality of the healthcare like in Vancouver? Are there any LGBTQ friendly providers and facilities?
Well, overall, I'm going to lump them together again, the Portland and Vancouver metro area.
Sure.
Vancouver has a wonderful hospital system here between Legacy and Peace Health, which is a Catholic nonprofit hospital. But they do extremely well on taking care of emergency areas. We have the Vancouver Clinic here, which is large. They have several locations. You can ask for GLBTQ plus providers, and they are seen at our Pride in the Park and will help you find one if you're looking for that. We also are very easy to get into the Medicare system here. We don't deny it's easy to find a doctor that will accept them. And you have also Kaiser Permanente, which is actually started in Portland with the Kaiser shipyards. And they are probably a great HMO system through that. My company provides health insurance through Kaiser as well due to the cost and doing it. But they have Kaiser clinics over here in Vancouver. If you need specialists that can't be provided here, you have easy access to the Oregon and Portland providers over there. So I think overall it's excellent. My mom is 94, and she has found through the Vancouver Clinic to be very well taken care of through the doctors and the programs there. Kaiser does the same thing. You just have to be a little more advocate for yourself in that system sometimes due to the HMO component. The hospital systems, Legacy's top rated. Peace Health is top rated, but Legacy is a better rated than that. Legacy has also got all the hospitals in the Portland area. We have Oregon Health Science University hospitals over there, does great work in far as if you have a specialty you need, it is over there. If you're a VA veteran, we have the VA hospital and a smaller facility here in Vancouver, but the big one's over in Portland. So you have a wide range and selection of providers here, and it's very easy to locate. And the Vancouver clinics are all over the city, and my mom utilizes them because it's close to her assisted living facility on going out. So I think you will find that you've got really good health care here to be provided, and that it's easy access for someone that's retired on Medicare.
How long would you say it takes to make an appointment with a specialist, or even your general practitioner?
I can tell you my experience has been, you just go online, set the appointment up yourself. A lot of times they're doing the Zoom type of appointment, so you can do that virtual into that. If you need a specialist, it really depends on what it's required. You make the call, but once you get into they're supposed to call you back. If they don't, you call them, then they will get you in to see that. The primary provider is very easy for me to get into, my health provider. And he's a gay individual, so I feel comfortable with that. My Vancouver clinic docs are all gay supportive as well, so I don't have any problems with those whatsoever. So I think it's an ease of getting into the system is very good. How
about appointments? Is it like 2 weeks, would you think, for going in?
I had an appointment with my doctor, went in one day and got it the next.
Oh, wow.
So, I mean, it really is that sort of system. Now, Kaiser might be a little differently than if you're on Medicare and you have the other benefits to do that. But Kaiser will tend to, if you have an issue that you need to get addressed fairly quickly, will do that. And I have used Kaiser before, and they will be able to do that for you.
Okay. How close is the nearest hospital to you?
10 minutes.
Okay. That's definitely
that's
close
the
enough.
Peace Health. Legacy is probably 20 minutes, and that's the preferred hospital that I utilize because the Vancouver clinic uses them as well as my primary doc.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And then we have lots of urgent care.
Yeah, all over the city.
All over the city. Yeah.
That's good too. All right, we pretty much touched on transportation and walkability already. Transportation is just really light rail and buses.
It's not even light rail in Vancouver. Okay. It's buses. And that's buses. One thing that we're lacking. I would say if you wanted to move here without a car, you would definitely have to be down in the waterfront, downtown, or a high issue. You would have an issue, absolutely.
Okay. Very good. Now, the tax advantages, we did touch upon that as well. I like that idea, though. No state tax, and you go right 10 minutes away into Portland, and you have no sales tax. So that's
true.
Really good. How about, does Washington tax you on 401k, IRA withdrawals? Or
not on the state level, Mark.
Not on. That's right, because they don't have
state income tax. Yeah, it's on the federal level.
Okay, so all of that is zero, which is nice.
I do have some statistics on the metro area. Like I said, we're around 500,000, 516, but our median age is 38. The median income is around 91,000.
Okay.
For us, which is fairly decent. Poverty is 8.5% for the Clark County, Vancouver, and I think that is pretty decent. I will address the homeless situation, which all large cities are done.
Yeah.
Portland has much more issues than we do in Vancouver. We, as a electorate in the city of Vancouver, voted to tax ourselves to provide services for the homeless. And so what we have done is, through the Vancouver Housing Authority, they have purchased 2 hotels out near the mall area, converted those into housing. We have housing districts with pallet little houses in it that are segregated and done well. The only issue is that we have is the camping thing, but
Mhm.
they've really tried to work through the issues of that. I don't see any of the homeless areas except down in toward the port area where there's grain and deliveries and things like that. We do have a trail that we do runs through the city, and you'll see pockets of that there. But they've done a good job of really working within the community to address these issues. I don't know how to solve them on it, but I can tell you that stepping forward and taxing ourselves and purchasing the two hotels to put people in, they have other housing authority has other avenues to go. I think that is the best that I've seen here compared to Portland or other cities of our size.
Yeah. I know Portland has a big homeless population.
They do.
And I wonder if some of the homeless have come over the bridge. Is it a walking bridge?
It is a walking bridge, and you can, but I think we have, Portland's been very slow in implementing camping regulations.
Mhm.
Vancouver started and did it originally onto it. So there is restrictions on where you can camp and how long you can camp, and they enforce those.
Meaning pitching a tent, right, in the middle of the street.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We don't have them pitching the tent in the middle of the street. They can't do that here in Vancouver, but they can be out in, like I said, the trail, open areas.
Yeah.
They can't even be in the parks to do that one. So there is only segregated areas that they can do it. We offered them the ability to find housing, help with housing, but it's not elected at times to do that.
Yeah.
So that's what you've got.
Got it. All right, let's move on to arts and culture. What does Vancouver have to offer as far as arts and culture scene? Is there an arts and culture scene? Do they have live theater, museums, opera, whatnot?
We're tied to the Portland area, so you would find the symphonies, the larger symphony, the opera over there. We do have a symphony here in Vancouver. It's very well attended. I've attended those. We have lots of plays, but they're local type of plays that come in.
Sure.
We have a lot of venues for singers and to come in and perform in clubs and that sort of thing here. We do have the Clark County Amphitheater out near the Clark County Fairgrounds, which I will give a plug to, is one of the best county fairs I've ever been to, and I go annually. But we have large groups come in. Imagine Dragons was just here. We had Rod Stewart was here. Cyndi Lauper was here. You have all of the country western venue singers here. And so you have the ability to attend those things within a very 20-minute drive from here. Getting into the parking lot's a little hectic, but other than that, you can do it. The tickets are fairly reasonable for that. So you have a large area of that. We have a Native American casino here called Illinois, and they also have lots of music venues there in doing that. We're probably lacking in the plays and that type of venue, but Portland has them. We have a GLBTQ plus play house that performs there. We have the Keller Auditorium provides a large venue for musicals that are on the road and come through. And then the Schnitzer has the symphony, the opera, and those type of events there. So we have a large cultural scene tied into the Portland area, but you can certainly have culture and arts and singing and all of that within Vancouver as well, which we've elected to do. The Portland Gay Men's Chorus is located, and we sing out of Portland, either in the Beaverton locations, which we've done, or the downtown Portland, but we're branching out and doing venues over here as well.
Got to start the Gay Men's Chorus in Vancouver.
Well, a lot of Vancouver men and like myself we have 200 singers on it, and I would say probably 50 of those singers are Vancouver individuals.
Yeah. I think a lot of people, they just move over from Portland to Vancouver.
They do.
They like it a little bit better. So
That's
But
true for me.
we won't say anything to
That's
Paul.
true for me. And I always plug the Vancouver, Southwest Washington as being a perfect place if you want to experience Portland and all it has to offer. You can do that, but tax-wise and smaller size and drivability and all the things, Vancouver absolutely offers that to anyone that lives here.
Very good. How about dining and restaurants?
We are just so good over here. Like I said, the waterfront has some of the best restaurants that you'll find in the state here, and the Oregonians flock to the restaurants over here to do it. I'm surprised a lot of the Seattle big, well-known restaurants have made a presence here, and I talked a little bit about Wild Fin, Gacho, 13 Coins. There's some very high, very well starred restaurants here. You can go anything from the Dives, which is decent food, to do that one. The oldest one we have is called Joe Brown's, open for breakfast and lunch, and it walks in and you're looking at the 40 dining scene there. Great hamburgers, great breakfast. You have Amaro's Table, which has several restaurants, but they're really good, and they do have really good bourbon bar with that. And then
I know you like bourbon too.
I do like bourbon, so that's where I go usually to it. And there's another one that's opened up here in Uptown that has a great bourbon bar as well. It's tied to O'Shannon's, which is more of a beer type pub with food into that one, but you can find those very well. You can find any type of ethnic food that you would like within the city, and they're highly rated in those areas as well. So yeah, we have a great restaurant scene, and you can usually find what you are looking for.
There'd be no shortage of choices, it sounds like.
That's correct, and good ones. They're really good restaurants.
Awesome. I have to come visit Vancouver.
You do need to come and visit Vancouver.
I do. Absolutely. And the food is diverse as far as the different international cuisines?
We have a lot of different cuisines. We have East Indian food, Asian food here. We have Asian, we have Hispanic, we have what I call Tex-Mex, which is what I used to down from Texas
Tex-Mex.
area. Then we have of course, seafood. My gosh, we are just, I used to think Red Lobster was a seafood restaurant when I was in Texas, but I have certainly learned the difference between that and now. So we have a lot of that. We have a lot of the wineries that have paired great food with it. We have different types of ethnic foods on that one. So you can find a lot of those in there. If you don't have them in Vancouver, they certainly have them in the Portland area. Cuban is a big one that I enjoy. We have one restaurant in Portland area and some Cuban selections here and certain restaurants here in Vancouver.
Sounds yummy.
It is yummy, making me hungry.
Yeah, I'm always hungry, so. All right. Talk a little bit about crime and safety. How safe is Vancouver for residents, particularly the LGBTQ plus individuals and retirees? Would the gay community, as opposed to anybody else, feel safe in Vancouver? Would you feel safe if you had to if you had a dog? I don't know if you have a dog, but if you had to take your dog out at 2 a.m. by your house to go to the bathroom, would you feel safe?
I think the question is yes. I looked up the statistics for that. The city of Vancouver and Camas, Ridgefield, all those are A+.
Oh, wow.
Very good to do that. The pockets where they are C's are outlying areas. And then, of course, the red areas that I talked about, Battleground, Yakult, probably is not as... I would not want to move there because I think that they would not appreciate the LGBTQ plus community as we should. The rest of the city is fine. My husband Jim walks all over the city, has no problems with that. Taking dogs out, have no problems within these neighborhoods as well. And I think you will find that a lot of them neighborhoods are safe because people are accepting. There might be pockets of some crime areas that are not as amenable to LGBTQ plus individuals. But overall, the city, when I looked at the map, was all A plus, very few C plus, and maybe 4 or 5 little F areas that they got an F on. So I think that is a good one. When you go across the river, it's a little different story. But here we're very good, and we have a very good police department in Vancouver that is welcoming to the LGBTQ plus, and we have lots of police officers that are gay or lesbian. I mean, are trans or whatever here.
Would you feel as safe being a gay person, LGBTQ person in Vancouver as you would in Portland?
It depends on the area of Portland, but 100% I feel comfortable in walking and taking. I have had no fear whatsoever the Vancouver area at all. Okay. Portland would depend on where you are in the neighborhoods you are. Downtown, I feel comfortable down there in certain pockets of downtown. And I think that is the areas. If you're up into the Pearl District or the waterfront in Portland, absolutely not a problem there.
Okay. And that goes kind of hand in hand sometimes with homeless too. So we already touched base on homeless and seeing what the city could do to alleviate the problem. It's a big problem.
I think Portland has realized that they needed to take care of the homeless situation in the downtown area because people were leaving. People weren't going down and doing things. That has reversed. They have a long way to build the confidence and trust of individuals to get back into that. But like I said, Vancouver really took the bull by the horns, as I say in Texas, and really has taken that homeless issue and really contained it and provided services. Not only they contained it, they provided solutions and services to it. And I think that's what distinguishes us from any other city that I know, because we did that. And I'm very proud that we did that.
Awesome. Okay, in conclusion, for somebody considering retiring in Vancouver, what advice would you give them?
I would say that I would really look at Vancouver as being a place for retirement. We have lots of retirees that have moved up here and doing it. I think the quality of life is excellent. The cost and benefit of the no state income tax and being able to go across the river for no sales tax is great. Our healthcare systems is highly rated through all the providers that we can have in the area. I also think that as we age, you need to look for communities that will be supportive of you.
Absolutely.
For us, we had a condo that had stairs. We have moved to one level home.
I'm all about one level.
Absolutely. And so there's a lot of neighborhoods that were built in the 50s that are one level and are very good. You have a lot of the downtown area, which is well. If you want to rent, you can certainly do that. You don't necessarily have to buy. There's some great areas in which to do that. Ease of getting around is one of the things that I really like. But I think just the culture and the weather environments are great. Like I said, we do get away during the grayer season during the winter time, but it's green up here during the winter and it's beautiful.
It's very green.
The myth that people have is that we receive more snow than we do. I can't remember. We maybe shut down once, twice a year, but that's just because people don't know how to drive and are scared of getting out involved.
You don't get that much snow.
We do not. We're in the valley. The snow happens on the mountains. It's very unusual for us to get a snowstorm. We might get ice if it comes up through the Columbia, but very rare. So I think that overall it's a great place. I think you can go to our city has a great why move? What can you expect when you move to the Vancouver area? And I think that's what the website to do that. Yeah. But
awesome.
Yeah, Jim and I both have not regretted our move to the Portland, Vancouver area. We looked at Seattle, but Seattle traffic reminded me a little bit much of Houston. So, yeah.
Can you share a personal anecdote or experience that highlights what makes living in Vancouver so special for you?
Yes, I think that probably I feel very comfortable in interacting with individuals and working here. But we do, one of the personal experiences we have a Van Cook Boys event that meets monthly. And so we kind of get together with the guys that are here that live in Vancouver and all over the city that get together to honor that. And I think that's one of the personal things I would say is I've met lots of individuals through that organization, and it's a potluck thing. We used to run one called Grits, Gays Raised in the South, but all of them have moved to Palm Springs. So we do a Friday at Black Book event during the season where all the gay guys get together there and talk about our Southern roots. But it's a great way to do it. Personally, I think Jim has found a great environment for walking and meeting people and doing that one. He's a golfer. There's golf here. I like the golf cart with a bar in it, but that's about all of my golfing experience I do. But there's lots of activities out here. So personally, I think I would say that I found my home.
I would say that too. You've been there for quite some time.
Yeah, I found my home.
All right. And okay, so we will wrap that up. In closing, would you like to add anything or share anything for our listeners about life in Vancouver?
I think I would only share that we have had lots of people moving up here, and the reasons are different. But I think they feel that they're inclusive here. We are a bubble in the national scene because we are blue all on the West Coast. I was in Texas and I was just taken back by the differences between the Texas environment versus ours here in Washington. And they move here because we have different ways of taking care of our elders as we should take care of them. But you have lots of options here. We have a very good, you don't have to have money to get good care here. We have great Medicaid systems. For that, we have adult family homes, which are 5 to a home, that allow them to be geared toward LGBTQ plus individuals, as well as I have Christian Scientists that, of course, have their own religious beliefs, but they're able to be accommodated. So overall, I think we're a welcoming city, state, county, not so much sometimes, but we really strive to make our lives better within our communities.
Sounds great, Gary. Well, Gary, thank you so much for coming to the podcast and sharing your experiences and thoughts about Vancouver, Washington. We definitely appreciate it. And thank you so much.
You're quite welcome, Mark. Thank you. And hopefully people will find the perfect home for them and they retire as well.
I'm sure they will. Thanks, Gary.
You're welcome.
We'll see you. Bye-bye.